Well, hello everybody. Hope everyone's having a good fall. Colors here in Boston are starting to get pretty vibrant, getting a little past prime. But I am really excited for another session in our series about personalization and understanding the technologies, the capabilities, the impact that is possible with the broadening range of tools that are out there. And for today, I'm really, really excited to have Vishal Sharma, who runs all of the product for SearchUnify. And I'm really excited about SearchUnify, besides the fact that it was ranked a leader in Forrester and Gartner's evaluations of all of the range of stuff that's coming out now for call center support. I also think because they are not one of the big behemoths, but have been a real scrappy player who I have discovered who's really pushing where agents can go with a thoughtfulness about how to make the whole system something that is easy to implement. And I've seen that with clients of theirs. So I think there's really two purposes today in what we're going to talk about. One, besides making you just simply familiar with a tool and how it works in this really important new area of call center support, is also to educate everybody about what's involved in doing this because there are layers, there's different types of agents, and it's useful to use sessions like this, not just to say, oh, here's something cool, but to actually help everybody get a deeper understanding of how systems like this operate. And what I love about the way Vishal talks about SearchUnify, and I've gone through it, is that they make it very transparent, very clear, and very easy to understand. So I want to welcome Vishal. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thanks, David. It's always a fun to have a chat with you. And I'm glad we are not just talking about, I love the introduction, by the way, for the product Search Unify. So I'm glad um, I have an opportunity to sort of like tease out some part of the products and how we this journey. But this topic itself is very exciting to me. How do you really build that level of personalization also in customer support? Yeah.
Yeah, and the way I've thought about it is, for years, companies have really pushed personalization in marketing, but in the service aspects of customer experience, it's mostly been ticket numbers. And I think what the power we have now unlocks is the ability to really know the customer, their context, their history, and bring that all to bear as we're going to get into. So, as I've started referring to it, Vishal, SearchUnify unlocks a new way to take AI's potential for customer support and bring not just automation, but a much higher, more personalized level of experience into the whole interaction. There's been a lot of buzz around systems that can handle customer inquiries. There's a lot out there that's being said about that. But from what I understand, you've created something that is continuously improving. So as it delivers service, it is constantly learning, not just about the questions people are asking, but about the people themselves. So, can you just help us understand some of the history of SearchUnify, what drove you to create it, and how you thought about the differences that you would manifest in the way you design SearchUnify?
Sure. But you rightly said, like, I mean, it's like funny remembering customers through the ticket numbers. I still remember like a couple of ticket numbers, which were like nightmare for me to handle those escalations. But you're absolutely right. That's how post sales you look at the customers. And that's very sad. During the marketing, you're like really investing a lot of money, a lot of energy, technology as well. And you sort of like call customers by their names. Um, Post-sales, the story is unfortunately very different. And then if you ask me, the motivation for us at SearchUnify was exactly the same. We wanted to make sure that customer support is equally contextual, equally personalized um, in nature that we've seen in stages of marketing as well. But I think the bigger question that we all need to understand and ask ourselves is, what is a gap like? Is that more of an intent issue? Is that more of a technology issue? But why don't we see the same level of personalization in customer support? Um, and before, I mean, I'm sure like some of us are probably on have seen that, like why are we seeing that sort of challenges? But just to give audience a way to relate to that, let me just give you a quick funny example, David. You've been a pioneer of this um, segment to one, sort of like a marketing. Um, if I ask you today that, David, can you probably just help me with a marketing campaign? You'll be like gladly helping me. You'll get in the depth of the topic. You try and understand my campaign requirements as well. And we'll be so excited to sort of like jump in and just let's just throw it out. I ask you the same question again, maybe a little bit of a less excitement, but you would still come and just try and help me. Um, Context is going to go away. Uh, I ask you the same question probably like 5 times. Oh my God. David is like, here's the book, Vishal, go, page number 45, read it, and then come to me, please. And that's exactly what we're seeing in support as well. Unfortunately, it's not really the intent, but the support agents, they're like flooded with recurring, repeated issues. And for a customer, this is like for the first time they're seeing this issue. For a support agent, this is like a deja vu. They're seeing it every day, right? How do you expect them to sort of like come back with that deeper conversation, build that empathy, add that level of personalization? In fact, let me just pull up a slide to probably like back my point.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So if you see, and this is like not me, but this is like technology services, TSIA organization. They've been doing beautiful work in terms of. I'm assuming Brian. Sorry, David. You can see my slide, right? Yeah.
Yes, we can see it
Yeah.
just
Oh,
fine.
okay, great. So this is not SearchUnify, but this is like more of technology services, TSIA, State of Services reported 2022. But if you see what it says, that 61% of assisted support cases that are handled by support engineers, there's still how to configuration and installation sort of issues, which means they can always be a technology that can, if the solution exists for these problems, there can always be a technology that can really redirect the customers to do a little bit of a self-service themselves for these known issues. And that's what we thought we should probably address as a foundation. So at SearchUnify, when you ask me like how we evolved, this is essentially has been our journey. We thought let's just solve this problem, the fundamental problem of sort of like helping the end customers find the information which they can find themselves itself without flooding that sort of support tickets to support agents. So we built an enterprise search engine. We call it like the chapter one of our journey. We came up with a concept of an enterprise search engine, which will essentially connect to all your content repositories where possibly the help can exist. And it doesn't matter whether the help is in a structured fashion or it's unstructured. It can be in your product documentation, it can be in your support knowledge base, it can be in your community threads or forums, anywhere where the help content exists, which has the potential to sort of like come and solve the customer's problem. We should connect that. So that was sort of like our first leg of the journey. Then the second stage was more of where we thought, why not to make the support agents smarter as well? So we built this insight engine on top of the federated search engine. And the idea was to sort of like look at every touch point, every digital footprint of the customer post sales, be it in your cases, the searches they are doing, the interaction they are doing with the success teams, or any product telemetry data which is coming up away. we wanted to make sure that all such touch points are really captured in a very nice way, in a very robust insight engine. And that helped us to sort of like roll out these co-pilots. Now, these co-pilots essentially are not really when they're working as a co-worker with a support engineer, they're not really giving the agent a help article that the agent can probably read and just go through the troubleshooting steps and send to the customer. They give you the context as well. And this context really makes those responses way more personalized and way more intelligent as well. So that was like sort of like a second stage of evolution, I would
Mhm.
say, for us. And then the third, which is probably the current wave, I would say, is more of the wave of these autonomous AI agents, because certain queries which are like very well defined and can be handled through the workflows that these AI agents can execute. Why not to just let them do that? So, for example, like resetting a password, send me status on my invoice, all those things, like standard simple things. If the agent is smart enough to really understand that what the customer is asking, and there's a workflow that exists, and I have the authority to sort of like execute that workflow, I would just go ahead and just do that, right? So this is how I would say we've sort of like evolved, and in my world we call it like a find, assist, and act sort of a journey we've had at SearchUnify. But we are very very proud that some of our customers have been us from the days of search engine, and now they're with us evaluating and using some of our autonomous agents as well. Yeah.
So, Vishal, there's a lot of interesting things in here that have some bigger implications. I just want to point out, and some of this relates to things I've talked about in other contexts. So, first, the enterprise search was the ability to go find things that are scattered in lots of different databases. So, product information, it could be customer information, past tickets that have been settled, all of that. And you're just going and find it doesn't all have to be in one mega database. So let's be clear. So it's like search, it goes and finds it. Then when you get to co-pilots, you're starting to do things with that information, digest it. So the information about a customer might already digest the fact that, this customer has only used these three features, has tried to use this fourth feature, but never seems to actually get there. Um, and maybe this customer has also called before about certain things. And so it's bringing a more digested information. And then in the last one, it then also has the intelligence to know how to act and the connections to do so. And so it takes it all the way there. So the examples you're citing are mostly for companies in high-tech businesses, SaaS companies and stuff. I mean, this is relevant for lots of different kinds of companies that have customer service. And I think the notion, and this is where a lot of companies get concerned, they say, oh, we don't have all of our data in one database, it's all over the place. But that's part of what AI can now solve. It can figure out what you're asking for, and as long as it has permission to go get it, it knows how. And so it's pulling in from many different databases and especially getting that contextual information about the customer. And then it also keeps writing more information as it solves the problem. It's creating new information that it can draw on and constantly learn. So it's not one mega database. The agents go and retrieve it. So can you explain a bit more about how that works? There's certainly different kinds of layers and memory. I think you do a very good job of keeping it simple, Vishal, and I think people will find this very interesting.
Sure. And you're absolutely right, David. We never believed in sort of like building a mega database, and it's forget about like whether we wanted to do that or we didn't want to do that. If you ask me, content unification itself is a huge challenge. The kind of organizations we work with, they're like multiple teams, right? Writing content, they're comfortable with the tools, what they're using, right? Forget about content unification. I mean, I've seen I've seen companies where different teams using different taxonomy altogether, right? One team is probably just
Right.
calling the product the different sort of a nomenclature. The other one is using a different nomenclature. And sadly, the customer at the end of the day, the voice of the customer is very different. They are just using more symptom-driven language, try and find the information, which they don't find because the knowledge workers on the other side in different teams sitting,
Mhm.
they're just on their own writing stuff in a different taxonomy altogether. So if you ask me, going to the customer and just tell them, guys, from today onward, all of you have to come to just one tool and build this mega database of information, not possible.
Yeah.
Clearly, big no to that we've seen. So our approach has been very different from day one. As I told you, we build this layer of federation, and that's the bottommost layer in this architecture diagram that I wanted to show you. We
So I'm
built
sorry,
this.
just
Mhm.
Vishal, those little logos are all the different kinds of places where information can be. It can be in Salesforce, it can be in Dropbox, it can be in Slack. That's what that's showing. I just want to make sure that
Absolutely, absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. So for example, your help information, it can be in your support knowledge base. It can be your product documentation manuals, which is again like a different team reporting under a vertical of product unit, writing in probably like Confluence or maybe some Madcap Flare. Like there are lots of tools which are like good at writing product documentation. Then your academy content, which is like your structured courses that you give to your customers, can be
Hmm.
sitting in your learning management
Right.
system. Your customer generated help content, which is like forums, um, is entirely a different platform altogether. So
Right.
all of this is important piece of information and it has the potential to solve a customer query. So from day one, we build these out of the box connectors to all of these platforms. And our idea was that if we get a query, it's our job to figure out, okay, which is the right system, which system is going to give answer to this question. We get that, you build a unified index of information, and then sort of like serve the answer to the user at the right time. You may have a very good product documentation, but your user is actually, your customer is actually on the support portal. Is never
Hmm.
going to go to the product documentation portal and just look for that information, right? We end up launching these product manuals. We start giving them along with the products. No one is reading them. They get on a call
Hmm.
with the support agent. So how do you make sure not just you to sort of like you go to all of these places, get the relevant information, relevant content, help content, but also serve at the right place to the customer. So if the
Hmm.
customer is using a voice channel, or if the customer is on the web channel, or if the customer has a habit of just throwing emails at you, you still have to make sure that all of these channels are getting the right service of this, providing this help information through these channels as well.
Hmm.
So we built these connectors and we also built out of the box sort of like serving layer also for this information, which is right there fitting in the channels. So that was the second thing we did. And then third, as I said, is content unification is just one part. We wanted to make sure there is context unification as well, because that's what the true personalization is really where it gets started. So imagine like your customer is interacting with the field service agent as well. Your customer is interacting with the customer success manager as well. Your customer is interacting with probably like the product team as well. Is your customer is escalating or having a chat with your executives also probably at an event. Now, if you end up having this siloed sort of a communication with your customer, then the customer feels like I'm speaking to 12 different departments. The customer
Right.
wants to talk to one brand at the end of the
Hmm.
day. So we wanted to make sure that we are not just unifying the content, but we are unifying the customer communication as well. And that's where
Right.
we did a good job that all of this put together is actually really going to build that level of experience which really customers are seeking post sales when they're interacting with different teams for any problem they're facing. But I think one of the things which we all need to understand here is this is a lot of information. This is a lot of information. And I think one of the challenges that we've seen technology had, at least until few, I would say, months ago, was that was not enough memory in these AI systems that it can really handle so much of information in the real time. So what has actually happened in the last few months is this a good disruption that has happened in this space in terms of improving the memory of agentic AI systems. The memory can be at multiple levels. The memory can be episodic, which is like just remembering the specific past interaction with the customer. I interacted with the customer. The last issue that customer raised was something related to SSO. Now I need to keep that in mind whenever the customer comes next to me,
Hmm.
because the next problem is probably going to be related to that. Customer always gets on a journey with you when they start using your products. Yeah. So if you remember those past interactions and not just their names, that's the
Right.
true personalization you can build. So episodic memory is something that has evolved and that has sort of like we've seen maturity coming in this in building these AI systems and agentic AI systems. Then the long-term memory. Long-term memory is more of like who the customer is, what is the purchase history, and then other things also like what has been his loyalty status, all of those things which probably are sitting in your CRM somewhere, right? You would
Hmm.
want to pull in that information also at some point of time when you're having a conversation with the customer. Semantic memory is more of understanding the general knowledge about products, services, their behavior patterns. As I said, there's a lot of help content information that you have to process in the real time. But if you know that for this customer, this is the purchase history, this is the entitlement, this is how the sort of like interaction style he's used in the past, then you can use all of those concepts in memory and really build amazing level of interaction. Sentiment is another thing, right? For example, if you know that this is like a so always there are customers using like always an upset customer, right? It doesn't matter how do you and what level
Right.
of this thing you do, right? You don't want to force that customer to stuck into a self-service loop because then you're going to create more damage. Yeah.
Right.
So you have to make sure whatever technology you're putting in front of the customer is really moving that customer seamless from sort of like self-service to assisted support, not wasting any time. It's a premium customer. I really cannot afford to upset this customer at all,
Right.
right? This customer prefers more of like a getting on a call quickly. I'm not going to force like step-by-step instructions. In fact, some of the things I really, if I could just probably show to some of our audience is like a basic UX personalization that you're seeing on agentic AI interface that is interacting with the customer. If you see it remembers the last interaction, okay, which means the customer feels more uh, personalized. The interaction is more personalized. Okay, you remember this was the last chat we had, which
Right
means that
away. Yeah.
yeah, you're aware, right? Um, it is changing the response style based on the query. So if you
Hmm.
ask me something for, let's say, give me the P95 latency by region by yesterday, I'm not going to give you like set of textual information, right? Something which is easy for you to process. I would just flip my interface quickly and just render a probably like a chart, which is useful for you and you can just quickly consume. If there are certain things that have evaluated proactively that will be required for you to fix in the next part of the journey, let's suggest those quick fixes proactively. So you move from sort of like a preventive to sort of like a proactive mechanism, reactive to more like a proactive mechanism in support, and so that starts suggesting because, as I said, the journey of customer is going to be pretty much the same for your product, unless you're making huge changes in the product. But the journey that you've seen with one product matured over a period of time, you would see the with the new customer as well. So why not to use and learn that um, um, and serve the new customers? So my point is that if you have the technology which really sort of like helps you to build that memory, then only you can build that not just the content personalization, but the personalization at a UX level as well. Yeah. So long answer, but I wanted to make sure that our audience really
Right.
gets that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. Vishal, can you go back 2 slides to that architecture diagram that you showed?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one. So there's a few things you started to talk about that I just want to bring out. So you've got the foundational enterprise knowledge, which is in a whole range of different systems that you are using your frag, it says here, you call it your frag capability. So your federated retrieval augmented generation, um, to be able to find and pull up and integrate. And then you've got some kind of insight engine that interprets that to provide context, that's coming up into this next layer where you can have individuals, so a customer support agent, it could be a customer directly, it could be internal. I mean, it could be HR asking questions,
Yeah.
because a lot of these same kinds of issues could be all over the place with an HR associate, trying to find out information about policies and issues related to a particular employee, um, even your own in-house IT. I mean, there's just a lot of different ones. So the concept of figuring out what you need to answer, bringing that information together, providing context, and then thinking cleverly about the user interface so that you're bringing that empathy and that sense of forward momentum. So all of that has to come together. Am I explaining that right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm glad you sort of like helped us to sort of like go back to the nitty-gritties and weeds as well. But you're absolutely right. I mean, that's and I didn't touch the score framework as well. But essentially, if you see all such technology applications that you can put in front of the customer, at the end of the day, they are running on top of your content. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not able to find the most relevant information, then all of this is not going to be useful at the end of the day to the customer. So this core framework is something where we've sort of like added our secret sauce in terms of how do you find the most relevant information out of this whole ocean
Mm-hmm.
of information, right? You ask one question, there probably can 10 documents which are like very close to the question that customer is
Right,
asking.
right.
Yeah. So how do you really come up with that exactly one or two accurate answers? Because you don't want the customer to look at 10 different articles, right? So
Right.
score is more of like our approach of ensuring that we leverage the right embedding models, because the technology is changing every other day. How do you really fine tune those models on customers' content? How do you use the right read anchors, rephrasers?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then how do you really, a lot of times the user is just throwing an error code. Um, this qualifies for a basic keyword search. I don't need to build any semantic intelligence here. But a lot of times the end user is asking a very sort of like a query which has a meaning to it, right? It cannot be
Mm-hmm.
like a direct keyword sort of a search. So these adaptive sort of retrieval mechanism, which is required dynamically that understand, okay, this query qualifies for a regular keyword search. This
Mm-hmm.
query qualifies for more of like a neural search. All those mechanisms are built in this core framework, which we sort of like proudly use to fuel all the different applications that we build for different use cases. And as you rightly
Wow.
said, this is not just about customer support at the end of the day, but we feel the same framework can be used um, by HR as well, by IT as well. In fact, a lot of requests which are coming to us nowadays from IT teams is like we need just one magic AI tool that can
Mm-hmm.
plug to all the information in our enterprise, and every team should be able to use that just one tool. Yeah,
Yeah, I would bet that would be very powerful.
yeah,
So that's a whole set of capability to figure out the information, get the information, create the answer. Then there's a whole nother suite now of capability, which are all these agents. So now you've got agents who are using this information to get stuff done. And I see that little MCP coming off the right. So that's the emerging standard now for connecting with a number of systems. So you could pump the output of the agent into a chatbot, into a learning management system. You can use that to update files in these different things. And the MCP protocol allows you to do that, as all these servers now are enabling you to get that done. Can you just get a deep dive? You may have a slide on this on the agents, because I think the other thing people could uh, benefit from understanding is that you have all these different specialized agents that work together to get things done. And there's an art to thinking about what is the domain of a specialized agent. And just how you think about the different agents. That I think that would be useful to go into.
Sure, sure. So, David, if you see this whole wave of agentic and building AI agents, we've seen like almost every SaaS organization is probably like getting into that space now, and everybody wants to roll out agents, right? Our approach has been slightly different. I mean, if you see like these big players like Salesforce, Microsoft,
Mhm,
or ServiceNow, for example, the approach is that we should probably build like one universal agent builder. You come and build an agent, and then sort of it can just do your job. Unfortunately, the sad thing is it's still not very simple. We've seen customers coming to us saying that, oh, we have like so many licenses of ABC technology, this massive framework we've been using to build agents, but we still don't have any agent on production right now. So our approach was more of like, okay, agent building framework is one thing, but what's the point of having a good kitchen if you're not able to cook that special dish for you? Um, so our approach was that we should probably build purpose-built agents. Since
mhm,
we had a DNA of customer support, we started with customer support. Um, so our idea was that if they're like very well-defined parts of customer support organization, let's just try and build an agent for that. Um, and an agent which the customer can use from day one itself. You just plug your MCP, as you rightly said. Since we had the layer of connectors already from day one for content
mhm,
sources, it was very easy for us to extend that layer as tools and MCPs also to different platforms. Um, so we sort of like build this whole agentic suite for customer support. And if you see on my screen right now, it's like a workflow. It's like a
mhm.
multi-agent orchestration system where the different agents are talking to each other at different points and passing that information, and ensuring that nobody drops the ball here. And the customer feels like from end to end, from the first touch point to the end of the case, the everything is like completely seamless. So if I can give a quick walkthrough of sort of like how these agents work, if you see on the left most side is the customer interacting. The first touch point from our agentic suite is this, we call it an AI support agent. Look at AI support agent more of like your traditional L1 support engineer.
Mhm,
The job of this support engineer is to do the basic troubleshooting with the customer,
mhm,
um, and then sort of like document the case if he's not able to help it with the information. Um, and that's exactly what this AI support agent does, but it's slightly smarter than that. How? It works on this intelligent front door detection system. It looks at the query, it talks to the AI knowledge agent and try an AI classification agent and try and classify that query that, okay, does it look like a self-service request that can be served through a help content? Or does it look like a service request that needs to go to assisted support because
mm.
there's no help content that
Right.
exists? It's a new issue or it's a known issue, right? So that basic level of classification, it does it on its own in real time when it starts talking to the customer. And then let's say if it is a self-service request, as I said, it talks to an internal RAG engine on the back end. The RAG engine supplies the most relevant piece of information that it can serve to the customer. It can take a follow-up question from the customer. It remembers because of the episodic memory, it remembers what interaction is going on. Okay. Which means you don't have to repeat yourself. If
Right.
you want to ask a follow-up question on your ticket that the conversation that
Yep.
you're having with this agent, it remembers that. And then it also speaks to a AI escalation agent at the top. What AI escalation does is that it has that long-term memory. It looks at the past interactions of the
Mhm,
customer. It looks at the historical sentiment of the customer. It also tries to find out, is this AI support agent trying to put the customer into a self-service loop? If that is the case, let's not do that. So it's going to flag the AI support agent. Listen, AI support agent. it's the time to hand over. Don't keep the customer with you now because the things might just go out of control here. We
Right.
might see an escalation very soon with the kind of
Mm-hmm.
conversation this is going, right? And that's how the idea is that the AI support agent gets the right flag from these other agents. And if it is not a self-service sort of a thing, something it cannot solve, it will document the case for the customer. It has access to the CRM. If it feels like the customer has access to a live agent, it connects a real human being on the call on the same chat right there.
Mm-hmm.
So the experience is completely seamless. But if that is not the case, it would just document the case for on behalf of the customer. Then we see this AI competency agent, the level two agent, we call it. Now, level two agent is by the name as it suggests, it's way more smarter.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because it works on a large language model, which can do that deeper level of thinking, reasoning. Um, it can spend a lot of time processing a lot of internal information. For example,
Mm-hmm.
your bugs, your internal documentation, your product telemetry logs. For a simple thing, in in product telemetry, there can be like huge amount of logs. It can go back to all of that information,
Mm-hmm.
process that, try and make sense of what possibly the issue that customer might have encountered. Some of our customers are actually launching their virtual machines also, and this AI competency agent is probably able to like replicate what customer has reported. And again, like some of my examples are like more techy because that's most of the customers we are serving,
Yeah.
which is why like these are coming more often into my examples. But
Mm-hmm.
the idea is something which is like way more smarter than L1 AI agent, but because it has time to process that information, it has access
Yeah.
to the best in class models, and there's a lot of information it is processing. Uh, but let's say if it is not able to solve, what happens? Just like any other level two agent, it should reach out to the experts. So internally, you would try and find out, okay, who are the experts who solved a ticket like this in the past? Okay, here are a set of experts, and they can be cross-department. It looks like a legal issue. I need to
Mm-hmm.
involve somebody from the legal department as well. It looks like an invoicing issue. I need to involve somebody from the accounts department as well. Okay, so it has that capability to do sort of like an expert locator within
Mm-hmm.
the framework itself. It connects all those experts, maybe through a Slack channel, maybe through a Google Chat channel, maybe through a Microsoft Teams channel, or not. Then maybe just raise the ticket to the next department. So throw something in Jira, for example, for engineering, if they had to come and just resolve this and probably add a patch.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it works. Then we see this agent called AI knowledge agent. Now, this is the best part of this framework. AI knowledge agent, I mean, its job is, as I said, is to make sure that if we've seen an issue, we should not see the similar issue again in future.
Right.
Because that's really improves the
Right.
quality of your support organization. So AI knowledge agent, what it does is that let's just look at how either a human agent or an AI agent has actually solved an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at that resolution steps. Let's look at what was the problem statement. Let's look at what was the steps taken by the agent to sort of like troubleshoot and replicate that issue. And let's put together a nice knowledge article out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's send that to a review process and make sure that we use this knowledge article in future, either by this AI support agent or the customer can just use it themselves as well,
Right.
to make sure that we're not going to see this issue again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of this knowledge agent. And we've seen some amazing numbers our customers are publishing using the AI support agent, using the knowledge agent as well. Um, and then one last agent that I really want to quickly touch upon is this AI case quality auditor. One of the fundamental problems that David we've seen in support organization is that when you want to do analysis of how your support teams have been interacting with the customers and what was the level of, I mean, if you have to do a quality analysis on those interactions, generally it's a manual process and it
Mm-hmm.
takes a lot of time. And the other sad part is that you cannot do this analysis on all the cases. It's humanly not possible when you're getting like thousands
Right.
and thousands of tickets. So you always have to take a sample, and that sample can have a bias, right?
Right.
That sample can always have a bias, which means that the sort of analysis that you're going to do at the end of the day may not be so accurate, which means that you really don't have the right takeaways, if you have to do some agent coaching, or if you have to go back to the product team and just tell them that, guys, these are the kind of repetitive issues we're seeing, um, you will not be able to do that because the sample itself is like so small.
Right.
So this AI case quality auditor, what it does is that it has the job to look at every closed case. Moment you close a case, you define the parameters. It's going to look at that case on all of those parameters. It has no bias. It's going to be grilling. It's going to be scrutinizing
Mm,
everything and then give you a fairly detailed report that you can not just use to help and coach your agents, but also like send it to your other departments also if something needs to change there. So this is the beauty. Like, so at the end of the day, all of these agents are working in like a one sort of like a tag
yep.
team, and ensuring that, as I said, the ball is not dropped. The customer feels like it's one sort of a trade is going on. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the powers of this is thinking through that this is the array of agents you need and thinking about the difference. For example, the L1 versus L2. The L2 is more powerful, but that's also more costly because you're using more compute. So you're thinking through the management of the tasks that need to get done. And something like the AI knowledge agent, knowing that you've got to keep creating all this knowledge. And then the quality case auditor for compliance, in financial services and healthcare, and that's going to be absolutely critical. So yeah, I just think for people who are watching, just the architecture of the agents and how they fit together is important. And for the kinds of things this does, this is cleverly thought through. So, Vishal, I got to believe this leads to financial impact. I got to believe that people, besides just simply, giving good service, that there's ROI. How do you think about the business case and the impact? I'm sure you've got some examples.
Oh, absolutely. I think so. So one of the things that before I get to even the ROI is that for all of these systems like AI agents, I think one challenge that we've seen, and I'm being very honest here, is that
Mhm.
a lot of support teams felt like as if these AI agents are sort of like their replacement. And
Mhm.
it took us some time for us to make the teams understand that it's not your replacement. Essentially, at the end of the day, what we want is that we want that the humans should be doing what they are supposed to do: build relationships, build empathy, get deeper into the conversations,
Mhm.
solve complex problems, right? But anything which is repetitive in nature, that should be solved by these AI agents.
Right.
And that took some time, but I'm very happy that some of the customers who've started now adopting, been the early adopters of this
Mhm.
technology, they've started seeing the impact. Excella, one of my customers, we actually did a case study and session also with them in TSI last year. This year, we presented with Jama Software. Um, Again, like I'm quoting a technology side example, tech services customer, tech support example. What we've seen, David, is largely the cost of a support ticket is roughly in the range of $200 to $300, $400 per case. Okay, which means that if your L1 AI support agent is being able to handle, let's say, 1,000 conversations itself, okay, um, in 4 months you're able to like really save about $1 million for the customer. We've seen numbers like this. Our customers are quoting. We get on the EBRs with our customers. We try and see how much value we've been giving to them. And these are like hard numbers. For Excella, their support cost saving per user interaction was down by 99%. These are like
Which
real numbers
seems
coming from,
hard,
yeah,
which seems
yeah,
hard to believe if they're not
yeah,
cutting support people. Somehow the
yeah,
savings have to happen.
yeah,
I mean, they
yeah,
must be reducing their teams.
yeah. No, so that's the case. Like wherever the technology, wherever the support leader is aware that, okay, here's a
Hmm.
technology we have to adopt and can really help us get out of this recurring sort of issues
Hmm.
and make us work much smarter. they've seen the CSAT level has actually improved because the agents have less
Mm,
workload now. They're
okay.
spending more time in those complex conversations.
Right.
That's the
Right.
beautiful part. And
That's
which is
the pivot.
why, yeah, that's the pivot. So
Yep.
instead of looking at, okay, this technology might sort of like is threatening and sort of like is going to force us to cut the head count, it's completely different. We've seen the
Right.
teams really
So if
evolve.
you do
Yeah.
that, so it's not just a question of cost savings per se, you're also doing a better job of helping customers solve their problems. So you
Oh,
get customer
absolutely.
satisfaction up, you get loyalty up. It may also be, I mean, in the case of here, it's technology. If you're unlocking new features that you charge for, you're getting higher engagement with your product because you're making it easier for people to use the product. And therefore that could increase renewal rates, expansion of adding new, moving up levels, upsells, and all of that is what you're saying, I think.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. See, at the end of the day, for customer, it's not about that whether I'm interacting with the agent or a human agent. At the end of the day, what matters is that have you solved my problem or not?
Right.
Yes, that's the first and the most important thing for me. Have you solved my problem? Yes or no?
Yeah.
And if you have problems which are like taking so long to be solved because obviously the agent is like occupied in like handling so many interactions,
Hmm.
um, it's getting solved like this, then the customer is always happy, right? And your CSAT
Yep.
numbers are actually going up versus you worried about that. Oh, okay, if AI is going to look at the customer interaction. And as I told you, like because of this whole revolution in memory, the
Mm.
conversations are not like robotic now. Okay,
Right.
these conversations are way more intelligent. We've deployed agents on voice, we've deployed agents on web, we've deployed agents on email. Um, and I can tell you, the quality of interactions these agents are doing at times, it is like so difficult to sort of like support engineers is also like, okay. And obviously we've given those controls also, David, like how do you, this is my brand voice. I don't want you
Yep.
to be very casual in your conversation, right? Um, so you can set the tonality of the agent.
Right.
All those controls are in the system, and the admins they can always come and even the agents also. Okay, this is how I've been responding generally. I like the response to be slightly more polished, more tight. I don't want like any other information in my response. So you have all of those hooks even if when they are using the co-pilots as well.
Yep.
So these numbers are obviously like exciting for us to see. And the best part, as I said, is like our customers are seeing this evolution. These are the same customers who started from the search engine era, and they're the same customers who've actually gotten into this agentic era as well, and are happily deploying these technologies.
Yep. So we're almost at the top of the hour here, Vishal, and I just think a few things I want to just make sure. First off, I hope everyone who's watching has a much better understanding of the architecture of a system like this and the kind of thinking that has to go into how to construct it in terms of all of the different kinds of filters and checks and all along the way. The emphasis on bringing humanity into this, being smart about what gets escalated, being smart about the user interface to make sure people feel like they're being heard and remembered. I mean, that's how you bring more and more personalization into this. And this whole emphasis on context, context, context. I keep hearing you say that, Vishal, is just so important in getting customers to accept these and actually like them. And you most of your experience has been in high tech companies, but it's clear, in so many, in first of all, other functions, like we talked about HR, IT, all could benefit from this, and other sectors where there's a lot of human interaction, a lot of questions, things where different databases need to be brought together, whether it's telecom or healthcare, financial services, any subscription type of businesses. I can see I definitely see the value. So, just a closing question. So, Vishal, in your journey, what's the most important thing you've learned?
I think in my journey, especially for this product, what we've learned is that um, the 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 content, if you ask me, is very important, right? So if you really ensure that you have the right strategy in place to not just create new content, but also sort of like look at, okay, this is the content which has not been working. Help content when I say, because all of these applications at the end of the day, we've seen they work on content, good quality content. When we started, we saw there were like two major problems. One, either there was no content at all. So you
Hmm.
just get the ticket, you just solve it, get to the next ticket, that's all, right? So no content at all. And if there's content, then you're not able to serve it. And you're not really maintaining it. There's a lot of
Hmm.
content, but you're not really maintaining the health of the content. So our thinking was very simple that we have to convert the support organization from a case first organization to a knowledge first organization, right? And how do you do that? When you close the loop, right?
Hmm.
The ticket that you see, you have to make sure that there's a culture of creating knowledge within the organization. And it is not just about support. It's across the departments everywhere, like in IT also, in HR also, legal also, everywhere. If you see something, you have to make sure the next time if you see something like this, there's a relevant piece of help content that can be used. And that has been our philosophy wherever we've seen customers really listening to us and understanding the importance of creating good quality content. They've seen immense value out of the platform. Um, and that has been, I would say, the biggest learning for me that let's focus on that part equally along with the technology.
That's great. I love that. The focus on learning. I mean, that's, in so much now of AI, it's test and learn, and here it's also, encounter and learn. And you're constantly building it. Vishal, thank you. We didn't really go through questions, I think, because of the way the LinkedIn platform is, but this will be posted on LinkedIn. In the comments, you can ask more questions. Both Vishal and I will be monitoring that to follow up because I'm sure there may be questions or interest in learning more from Vishal. So I want to thank everyone. Our next session is in I think 2 or 3 weeks with Andrew Graff, who is the CEO of Allen and Gerritsen, one of the much more innovative mid-size ad agencies, talking about how his agency is navigating the AI landscape. Agencies, lots of questions about economic models, services, things like that. And Andrew's really been on the leading edge of that. So I hope you can join me for that. Look forward to any feedback on this session, suggestions for future sessions. And once again, Vishal, thank you so much.
Thank you
Take
so
care,
much,
everyone.
David. Thank you,
Yep.
everyone.
Take
Take care.
care.
Bye.
Yep. Bye bye.